Welcome to the Rockstar Principles Podcast, coming straight to you from Rock and Roll, USA, covering the latest and greatest in educational leadership trends, news, and awesomeness for principals all over the world. Now, here are your hosts, the boss, John Ross, and the Doctor of Proctors, Nick Indeglio.
You spend time with your family?
Sure I do.
Good. Because a man that doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
Welcome back to the Rockstar Principles Podcast, and we're going to hit you one more time with another one of Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership in our own little Maxwell's University of Leadership that we have going here on the podcast. And we're up to number 7, which is the Law of Respect. And the Law of Respect, or as I like to think of it, the Godfather Law from the movie The Godfather. People naturally follow leaders stronger than them. Whether it's through fear or it's through just respect or just admiration for someone that's like that, people gravitate and will follow people that they see as strong leaders. People look for leadership. People crave that kind of guidance in their professional and personal lives, really. But let's keep it professional. And people will look to you, and if they feel as though you're someone that can handle this, then they're going to respect you. And that really goes a long way toward getting people to follow you. So, Nick, I know you're into being strong, but I don't think this is physical strength that we're talking about. I think it's just genuine leadership strength, maybe more of what we're thinking about. But thoughts?
Well, let's ride the wave of The Godfather. And let's start with what happened when Don Vito went down with his gunshot wounds. Sonny takes over. Now, here's question number 1. While I'm sure everyone in the family respected Sonny in his role prior to stepping into the Don's chair,
right?
Do you really think anyone fully respected him as having the capability to lead the family as the Don? I don't think they did. And clearly the mistakes he made, initially, 1, cost him his life, but 2, it was almost as if nothing he was going to do would work. You know what I mean? They knew he wasn't suited for the role. No one really had faith in him right off the bat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you're doomed to fail. And it goes back to Collins. And I know Collins would never reference The Godfather, but you got to have the right people on the bus. And then you have to put the right people in the right seats on the bus. Right. And then in order to really have, I think, the full level of respect, there it is,
Right. This I know we're digressing significantly, but a good friend and former colleague of mine, who I don't think listens to the podcast, even though I've talked to him about it a couple of times, a guy named Chris Puglisi. He works in Upper Darby. He's director of people services there. When he and I were, I don't know if it was when we were teachers together. I guess when I was principal and he was my assistant principal, we used to talk all the time about how we were going to write a book about the leadership lessons from The Godfather. And from mafia movies in general, that we felt like there was a lot of great leadership lessons, and we had even written some of them down. Well, somebody stole our thunder before we could get to it. Yeah, I know. It's a good lesson. It's a good lesson for everybody, not to when you have ideas like that, you should really jump all over it and not think, oh, we'll get to it tomorrow or we'll get to it later. But there is a book. There's an article here, at least I found, an offer you can't refuse, leadership lessons from The Godfather.
Who's that by?
Lydia Dishman. It's on a website, Fast Company. I just real quick Google searched it while we're sitting here, but I think this is about the book. I'm pretty sure, and I'm not going to bore everybody, but essentially the idea is that, that there's lessons to be learned. And although we don't want to equate the mafia with leading a school, that there are certainly lessons to be learned, and there's a lot of common themes, I think, between the two. Chris and I used to talk, and we would make parallels between movies, and not just The Godfather, although that's the quintessential mafia movie, but there's plenty of others like Goodfellas, and I love the movie The Bronx Tale. It's one of my favorite all-time movies. But there's lessons, I think, to be learned from that. I think there's a lot of lessons that we can pick up when leading a school, and as you're alluding to, people have to naturally the reason why to go to The Godfather, at least I think, the reason why Vito kind of came to become a leader of a mafia. Even if you know the story, you know he came from nothing.
Right.
Vito Andolini was his original name, and then when he came to America, he took the name Corleone, and because that was the town he was from, and he was this kid, living on the streets and everything. But the reason he was a small time hood, a little crook, but he became the leader of this gigantic crime family was because he had this respect among the other hoods, among the other small time hoods, and he took the bull by the horns and started his own family, and people began, they feared him when he became Don Vito, and he was this, gigantic figurehead. But even prior to that, I think the way he got there was the respect that he got from the people that worked with him, just because of his strength, the strength in his leadership. So.
Well, the article that you found here, Lydia Dishman, who wrote the article, referencing, I think the guy who wrote the book, his name was Moore.
Yeah.
However, Lydia Dishman is on Twitter. At Lydia Breakfast is her Twitter handle if you want to follow her. However, a couple of the things that, real quick before you hit your stuff in the article, was some of the quick pieces, and I think we're right towards the top there. I want to make sure because I liked what it said right before. Go down one more, right there. Some of the valuable lessons were community and team building, making tough decisions, and playing to win while at the same time not neglecting friends and family.
Right.
Which is an interesting, I think, summary of Godfather 2 when you see the rise of Vito. Another interesting choice.
Going back to Sonny, if I can, real quick. That's one of the things Vito says to Sonny. Is a man can never really be a man unless he spends time with his family. A man who doesn't spend time with his family is not really a man. And he's kind of taking a shot because he knows Sonny is having extramarital affair on the side and he's aware of what's going on. But that's an important, God, we could talk for hours about the importance of family and dedicating time to your family as well.
No question at all. In fact, how many times have we... because we've talked about it, when a staff member shoots us an email or comes to us and says, hey, can I leave a few minutes early? I have to take my kid to the doctor's. Family comes first.
Yeah.
Family comes first.
Absolutely.
And
I'm sorry, I sidetracked you there. You were talking about these 30 things that you mentioned.
One of the things I think is interesting, and I always found this fascinating from the visual choices cinematically in Godfather 2, when they're doing the flashback. So when you're seeing De Niro in New York City.
Right.
I always felt like those scenes... And correct me if you saw it differently, but remember the old West movies where they would film on a backlot studio and the town was a 1-block town.
Right.
And everything felt super contained in that little town. Mm-hmm. Well, to me, the flashback scenes in Godfather 2 felt like that. And I always felt like they made those decisions filming it that way so that you saw, number one, the smallness of the initial scope, right?
Right.
But the fact that was his world.
Right.
And he essentially took that world over. He became the de facto leader of that block.
Right. I mean, he took it from the Black Hand, the guy who was the leader at the time, the guy in the white suit, who was trying to extort money from him. And he reaches a point where he's like, why does everybody just pay this guy? He was a cruel leader. I mean, this is, we're really digressing. I'm sure Maxwell would love the idea that we've taken one of his laws of leadership and we've gone completely Godfather on it. But I think there's a great lesson there in that you had someone who was controlling that community, the Black Hand, the guy in the white suit, who was a cruel leader, who just walked in the stores. You remember at one point he walks into where Vito's working and he just reaches into the register and takes money out of the register. And, that was solid fear. Okay. So I think we're on a good thread here.
Yeah.
If you get your respect completely out of fear, that is going to eventually come back to bite you.
Yep.
And maybe not hopefully it doesn't mean you get assassinated in a hallway as you're walking into an apartment. But it's people felt the need to do that. Vito felt free to do that because he knew that if he took out the Black Hand, that nobody was going to be upset.
Right.
No one was going to mourn him. There was no retribution for what he did there because people hated the guy. They respected him because they were scared to death of him, but they hated him. And I think he learned from that. In that when he became a leader, sure, he had to do awful things, but he was also very, very genuine and caring and, people that did things for his family and for the for the better of the community, he looked out for people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, horrible person. I'm not trying to put him up on any kind of pedestal because of the things that they did do and the people they killed and everything like that. But I just, these are the threads that, my buddy Chris and I would have of discussion, and just how much leadership, how much you could learn from lessons like that. And I think that the point you're making about the smallness of that community, I think that really became an essential part of who Vito became as a leader when he became older, and he wanted to keep that close-knit community, even though he was now all over the country, if not the world, all the way over to Italy. His influence went to.
The other piece to tie into that, when you talk about when he kills the Black Hand in the stairwell,
right?
Is prior to that happening, was the conversation between between Vito and his two friends,
right?
And this is, I think, an important point too, in that we talk about like the natural charisma. And we know that, Collins argues against that and says, most of the top leaders in the world don't have super charisma, but they have that passion, what I mean? That drive to be successful. And I think that's illustrated in that scene because his two friends know the same thing that he knows, that none of them can be successful while the Black Hand has control of everything. There's only one solution to that, right? In that world they were living in, they had to kill him. Well, the other two friends, and I'm not, like, again, we're not putting them on a pedestal. Yeah. However, use the metaphor for whatever tough decision you have to make. Something very difficult had to be done. In this case, they had to kill him.
Right.
The only one who was willing to do that was Vito.
Right.
And that further solidified him becoming the one who was going to be the leader. Right. Good or bad, but whatever. But he took the bull by the horns in that instance.
We could really, I think, I'd like to put a plug in right now if I can, for when we're finished with Maxwell. I think we could do a Godfather.
Oh yeah.
We could do a Godfather segment every week.
Yes.
Because there are so many. I mean, and maybe we could get the gentleman who wrote, who stole my idea and wrote this book. I'm sure he got this idea from me.
Somewhere
I've
along
always
the line.
felt robbed that, but that's my own fault. We had the idea and we didn't jump on it when we had the chance. But yeah, there's things in here. Build a powerful community. Hold people accountable. Don't get emotional. Be decisive. Spend time with your family. All good stuff. And I think we could do segments on that. So we're up to number 7 out of 21. Once we finish Maxwell, I think this is a good idea for us to talk some Godfather every week because, man alive, I could do that. We could do 30 minutes a week just on that. I think.
Totally agree with that. Hey, one last comment. We'll digress from the Godfather because there was one other thought that I had with the law of respect.
Yeah.
And this is such a good one, and we've gotten such good conversation off of it. And just give me your quick feed on this line. One of the biggest mantras in pro wrestling is,
and all worlds lead to wrestling, my friend.
Well, and if you listen to the Steve Austin podcast or Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler, he's a big proponent of this, and it goes like this: the people you step on the way up the ladder are the same people you're going to encounter again when you're coming down the ladder.
Wow.
And the whole thrust of that is treat people well,
right?
Even when you're ascending above them,
right.
Because the time's going to come when you're not at the top anymore, and when that time does come, you're going to come and run into those people.
And I'll go a step further. The time, the time may not come where you're not on quote unquote the top anymore. That may not happen, but if that doesn't happen, what I think will happen is some of those people might be stepping on you on their way up. In other words, people that you step on, let's say you ascend to a position as a principal, some of those people may eventually become principals and superintendents themselves. So they might wind up being your boss.
That's true.
I guess is what I'm saying. So, if you step on certain people on your way up, and that person, let's say it's you and somebody else both trying to get an assistant principal job, and you trash that person or do something awful or horrible, which none of our listeners would do, but someone else who doesn't listen to us, who deserves bad things to happen to them because they don't listen to us, does that, and they trample somebody else, and sure, you get your foot in the door and you become, but that person goes somewhere else, and they go to another district, and they move up the ladder in another district, and then here they come back to your district, and now they're your boss, and they remember how you treated them and what you did to them. So yeah, I mean, if you can't do it just to be a good person and do what's right to be a good person, certainly keep in mind that fame is fleeting, I guess is the quote that comes to my mind, and yeah, things like that can happen for sure.
Absolutely. All
right. Number 7. Wow, we got a lot of time out of that number 7 there. Number 7 of Maxwell University of Leadership. That's it for right now, and we'll be right back with more of the Rockstar Principles podcast.
And now a word from our fake sponsors. But we'd really love if they were our real sponsors. Seriously, we would love it.
Who are the people in your Twitter hood?
What?
In the Twitter hood.
What?
In the Twitter hood. Who are the people in the Twitter hood?
You're just getting lazy.
The people that you meet each day.
I have no idea. As always, you completely come out of left field with your Twitter hood songs. But yeah, this is our Who Are the People in Your Twitter Hood segment. Quick little hit we like to do where we mention people that we're checking out on Twitter or people that are checking us out on Twitter. Nick and I both like to... we each bring one up, and then do we have one that we're doing together?
We didn't pick one.
I'll look for one while you're talking. I'll act like I'm listening to you, but I'll really be searching on Twitter for another name.
Do you want to go first then?
I'll go first.
I'll go
first,
okay.
yeah,
Smart,
and then I'll look while you're talking. All right, so for my person to check out on Twitter, I'm selecting someone who follows the Rockstar Principles on Twitter, and that is Bret Domstrand. And you'll find him at Bret Dom, at BRETDOM. And Bret is a longtime follower of the Rockstar Principles. He's a special education teacher, really into growing his personal learning network. And he's out of Lakeville, Minnesota. Don't you know? Minnesota, don't you know? And Bret is somebody who contributes a lot. He's a part of our weekly chats, our PAESSP chat that we do. He's been a part of that several times, and other chats that we get into. We see Bret there quite frequently, and he's an all-around great guy because, hey, he retweets us a lot, and he's spread the word about us. He's told people about the Rockstar Principles. We've seen all the mentions that we get from him. So I wanted to give him a shout-out and say thanks to Bret. Hope you're still listening, and maybe we can get you some more followers. So people check him out. He's got a lot of great stuff to say in addition to having impeccable taste because he likes the Rockstar Principles. He's got a lot of great stuff that he talks about, including some of the Minnesota chats that go on Twitter as well. So check him out. All right, Dr. Nick, over to you.
All right, well, my Twitter choice for today is the community manager for one of our favorite companies at Schoology, and that is Jen Marie Robustelli. And you can follow her at JenASTELLI. And Jen is the main thrust and force behind the first ever Schoology user conference coming up this June in Denver, Colorado. And it's called Schoology Next. And she's done a tremendous amount of work putting together that program. They've got a great speaker for the inaugural event. So go on Twitter, find Schoology, find Jen. You can learn all about it. And if you don't have a learning management system that you're using that you love, then you better find Schoology because it's going to rock your world. And if you're using some other crappy learning management system...
Whoa!
Hey, I'll come out and say it.
What's the heck?
Yeah, Blackboard. Who do you think you are? Hey, what's the other one? Moodle.
What?
Who do you think you are? You guys suck. So Schoology's better. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I went there.
Yeah, you really did. You're really putting it all out there to pump up the Schoology, huh?
Yeah. Now, of course, if Blackboard or Moodle or one of those want to actually sponsor us and do a commercial,
Then you'll completely sell out.
yes, I'll be a complete sellout.
Okay.
I will. Now, in all seriousness, Jen's got a very robust Twitter account. You can follow her and look at Twitter as well, or, on Twitter for Schoology as well. And seriously, check them out, guys, because it's a platform that is evolving daily. They're looking to really not take over. I don't want to make it sound like they're trying to rule the world, but
Right.
they're trying to create the best platform possible to really enhance education and make it easy for teachers who might be resistant too. So it's a great platform.
Good stuff. Okay, well, then I'm going to go out there and mention at DASD_DMS, which is Nick's Twitter handle. Only because he's at 299 followers, and I think I'm at like 315 or something like that. So my personal school district Twitter is at DASD_LMS, and Nick's is at DASD_DMS. So maybe you want to follow both of us on Twitter.
Yeah, why
That'd
not?
be a nice thing, Wouldn't be unheard of for people to follow us both as the Rockstar Principles and also follow us as
Our alter egos.
Our alter egos, our school accounts. Actually, Nick's at $2.99 and I'm at $3.64.
Wow.
So, not saying anything, just putting it out there. Maybe people want to show a little, love to Nick and get him up there. Get his
You don't think
numbers,
it has anything to do with the fact
up.
that you have 300 more students in your school, which
All
equates
right.
to at least.
All right. So wait, let's
600
review.
600
I have
more parents.
1,600 kids in my school, and you have 1,300 kids. Correct?
1354.
1354, and I'm at 1610. Yeah. I guess that's kind of that makes sense that I would have a few more followers. I've got more
I don't know
to pull
if that
from.
many though. What's that? That's a lot. Like that. I don't know that it's
I
proportionate.
don't know. I can't do the math that fast in my head.
Neither can I.
All right, cool. So, well, I guess that's going to do it for this segment of Who Are the People in Your Twitter Hood, and go right into the next one. Or are we going to do a commercial?
Well, no,
was kinda quick.
We always stop.
Always?
Yeah, you got to.
I said we throw caution to the wind and just no. Okay,
No,
you're looking at me bad. I'm getting
Yeah,
dirty
man.
looks, folks. All right, we'll be right back with more of the Rockstar Principles podcast.
I got to edit this stuff.
That's right. Welcome back to the Rockstar Principles podcast. We got one more good segment here for you. We're going to talk about iPads, a little bit of technology, a little article that we found on Mindshift, the KQED blog. It's a pretty good one. We follow them on Twitter. I think their hit is at KQED, their handle at KQED. But the article's called "What Will It Take for iPads to Upend Teaching and Learning?" Everybody I know for a while has been talking about iPads and their use in the classroom and their use in school. And there's a lot of debate about, iPads or other tablets. First of all, whether or not they're functional and whether or not they help actually to improve learning. And then, whether you should use iPads or one of the other many tablets that are out there. I know that's a debate in and of itself. But in this article, they visited a school, Hillview Middle School, which is in the Silicon Valley in California. And they have, they're in their third year of having iPads for every kid in the school. So they talked to several of the staff members, including the principal, about, what's going on with this and has it met the expectations and has it, really been everything that they thought it was going to be. And I thought it was refreshing that the principal was able to say that, yeah, it's done a lot to enhance the classroom learning. It's helped with managing homework and organizing for kids, and logistically, it's really gone a long way toward helping the instruction that takes place on a daily basis. But that his concern, or the thing that has bothered him, is that it has not transformed the learning in his school. He's hoping to get some kind of transformative movement in the school. So to try to transform the learning that takes place, to have kids take more ownership in how they're learning, rather than it still being the, as Nick likes to say, the sage on the stage thing, where people are just putting the information out there for the kids, and the kids are just digesting it. That he's really hoping to transform that and have it be more of the kids taking ownership in their learning and doing more exploring and using the iPads, using the technology to do more of that on their own. So pretty interesting article. Nick, any thoughts?
Yeah, first, a quick shout out to the author, Katrina Schwartz. You can follow her on Twitter, at @KSchwart. So that would be KSCHWART. And my main point is, from reading this article, you've got a school, well off, good resources, one-to-one initiative, all the PD in the world, and you still are having a very hard time having it transform learning. It's enhancing, it's not transforming. And I look at these other schools who don't have all those advantages, who are dumping the money into these devices as well, and it gets depressing, because even good teachers, great teachers, do they have the time to learn how to help this type of technology transform learning? What are we doing with it? And I want to take it back to a chat I was in the other night. And of course, I'm not going to name the chat or anything like that, but this was a group of highly technology, digital literate people who on the cutting edge. And a lot of the conversation was about teaching our kids. They're going to be taking over the world. What's that look like? And these are people who, I look at as being, transformative leaders. And yet they were very much still pounding on the fact that we need to teach the kids the old way of doing things. That we need, and you can disagree with me if you want, but We need face-to-face.
Wake up!
We need.
I mean, seriously.
The texting is not. I got news for you. If we're going to be irrelevant soon, we, as in people, even my age, our age, are going to be gone. When our kids take over, our ways are gone.
Yeah,
it's all going to be social media.
That to me is the equivalent of people who, and I've heard this, that when the automobile was invented, that people saw it as a fad. Do you know what I mean? This will, look how slow it goes and look how ineffective it is. It's much better. You can pull more when you have horses. And you think about how silly and ridiculous that sounds. Wake up. This is, and maybe it's because I live with two teenagers. I've got 3 kids and I live with 2 teenagers. And my kids are, great kids and they're intelligent and they do well in school. They're not, they're not kids that are secluded or anything like that, but they are so into technology and the use of technology and the means to communicate with one another. The pendulum has swung. The paradigm has shifted. The cheese has been moved. Use whatever analogy you want to use from all the different things that we have in leadership, but it's done. The ship has sailed. Yeah. This is the way things not are going to be. This is the way things are. It's how they are now. And if you're still going to hold on to that, kids, face to face, yeah, that's great. That's nice. We should still do that, but they're not going to. That's not going to be the purpose. That's not the purpose of schools. No. You can still develop those relationships. Yes, relationships are important. They are. I'm the first one to say that. But that can still be developed in other ways. It doesn't have to be that's developed by me being the teacher standing in front of you, the student. It doesn't have to be that way.
And let me give you let's use a very specific example. All right, let's writing, grammar, etc. Kids today can't write. Look at this text messaging. Right. It's ruining grammar. It's ruining the research paper. It's ruining this. You know what I say to that? Who cares? Yeah. Because communication, which is the key, right? That is what's important, right? So, text messaging, you can communicate incredibly quickly. Right. Have your answers in writing so you can refer back to it. Because let's talk about a real face-to-face conversation, right? If we're talking about something really important, like a business meeting type thing, what am I doing? I'm taking notes, right? Yeah. So then I have to go back and look at those notes. Or we have to audio record the conversation. I have to listen back to it. Text message conversation, the stuff I want to say, I can say concisely, quickly, bam, it's right there on paper. I got it, we've got it. But let me take it the next step further, okay? Research papers, they're going to be a thing of the past. I got news for you. They're going to be a thing of the past. Just look at Storify as an example.
You're scaring the bejesus out of people right now. You realize that?
Hey, and that's fine. But let's be honest. You have to do a paper on cellular respiration in biology class for 10th grade. Right now, you're doing a traditional research paper, right? Right. Okay. Using Storify, you can do that same exact paper, have it be 10 times more interesting, use 10 different types of social media communication and audio and video and everything else, and learn 10 times as much. Right. Guess what? That's the way the world is going. Let's use Natalie as an example. She's 15? Yep. All right. In 10 years, Natalie's 25 years old. All right? She's employed. She's working in the world, whatever it is that she's doing. But she's doing good work, right? She's doing something that's contributing. Her current methods of interaction and communication 10 years out is what is going to be the way they are communicating. It's going to be even further evolved at that point, okay? Where are you and I at that point, right? We're 50 years old or older at that time, right? We're nearing the end of our careers. We might still have stroke, but that generation of 25-year-olds who are trailblazing, they're the ones who are in control. They're the ones who are in charge at that point. If we don't have the ability to keep up with them, to communicate like they're communicating, we can't hold on.
Well, here's the easiest way to make a parallel to me, because right now, as you know, I'm in my doctoral program. which you finished, and so you can identify with this, and anybody who's taken graduate classes or anything like that can identify with it. What's the gold standard for writing?
APA,
right? How often? What edition are we on of APA?
6 or 7 at this point, right?
I mean, they change it.
Yeah.
The rules change.
Yes. Yep.
So that's my point. The rules change. Someone arbitrarily decides that you're no longer going to cite things this way, that you're now going to cite them this way. I don't know who this person on Mount Olympus is that gets to make these decisions, but okay, that's fine. They decide to do that. If they can change the rules, why can't we change? Why is it? Who gets to decide? You know what I mean? If I can change and you can change, we all can change. I just don't. I'm all about proper grammar. I try to get that across to my own children about speaking properly in terms of being a professional and interviewing and presenting yourself to others. That's why I do that. But that may look completely different, like you're saying. 10 years from now. 10 years from now, the interview process may be... How do we know that the interview process for jobs isn't just going to be some kind of digital, something in front of somebody where you're not actually forced? How do we know that's not... That's my point. How do you know? How do people know? Everybody who holds on to this idea of, face-to-face and kids aren't learning what it's like in the real world... I got news for you. The real world now is going to be different. Just like the real world in 2014 is so much different than the real world was in 1994 or 2004.
Yeah, and okay, exercise aside for a second, okay? So let's put the physical benefits that set that aside for a minute. So you can't use that as an argument against me right now, all right?
Okay.
What's the difference between two people face-to-face like you and I are right now, right? We're recording a podcast, so we're not doing anything physical. There's no physical exercise benefit. What's the difference between that, right? And now I'll use Cameron as an example. Cameron's 7th grade, 8th grade?
7th grade.
7th grade. Playing a video game. Was it Call of Duty is he playing?
Yeah.
Okay, Call of Duty.
Which he's not old enough to play, and I'm admitting on a podcast that my son is playing Call of Duty, but yeah.
Regardless, whatever that game is. On a headset, right? Doing online. So let's say he's playing the game with 4 other people.
Yeah.
What's the difference between what we're doing and what they're doing? Why is what they're doing worse than what we're doing?
Right.
It's because they're not face to face. They're engaged in a highly intellectual activity, and I'll argue with anyone to tell me that video games aren't complex and don't have giant benefits.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're strategizing. They're dealing with historical events and trying to work their way through that.
Yep.
How's that any less good than what we're doing? I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I think people hold on to this idea, and I know we've talked about this before too, about the technology being the great evil of the world. And as I just said, my son's 12, and I let him play Call of Duty. Yeah, because I feel as though he has the mental capacity to understand that simulated violence in that game is simulated. It's just that. We talk about it. We've played it together. I don't have concerns about him growing up to be an extremely violent kid because he's playing this simulated game. I just felt the need to put that plug in there before people lose all respect of my parenting.
But before you say anything else with that, in 7th grade, what's the social studies curriculum?
Yeah, right. It's probably American history or world history. Yeah.
Up through at least through the Revolution, close to World War I, right?
Right.
So how's that? I mean, how's this is any different? Forget you're simulating. These games are historically accurate at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
You're learning about it, and
your point is that there's multiple ways
to be exposed
to that stuff, and absolutely, it's true. Again, getting back to the original point with this article and iPads and transforming learning, I don't see how iPads can be that transformative until you get people past that. The whole concept of needing to be face-to-face with kids on all of our learning. Again, I'm not saying every kid should be at a computer and every teacher at a computer and that's what they do all day long.
Right.
I'm just saying we need leaders in this. We need educators in this that are willing to give it up, that are willing to say to the kids, okay, you've got everything you need right now to go and learn this on your own. I'm going to take a step back and help facilitate that. but, let's see how you do with getting this information on your own, rather than me telling you where to find it and what to circle and what to highlight and, hand feeding it to you. So It's going to take that for it to be transformational, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree fully. All right. Well, that was a great one.
Wow. Covered a lot of stuff.
Woo.
Getting pretty deep, pretty excited. Pretty heavy conversation for our podcast, but nonetheless, good stuff people should be checking out. I know our 6th grade center, which is opening next year in our school district, they're going to have a one-to-one initiative that they're doing with iPads. So best of luck to them, and something that we'll be keeping a close eye on, because as the kids move up to us, they're going to be in our schools with the same situation. So good stuff for everybody.
Ooh, we're going to wrap this one up.
Am I keeping you up? You sound like you're about to yawn.
Yeah.
It's the difference between doing these in the morning as opposed to doing them at night. We normally record at night, and now in the morning you need a little bit more of a boost to get charged for the day.
Time.
So
that, and I actually, I've been I'm gonna fall into the too much information.
Oh no, yeah, I can tell by the look you were getting on your face.
In fact, you know what? One of our commercials I'm gonna find for it. Delicious Greens 8000. My brother, when he got healthy a few years back, he was living in Florida at the time, and they have all that foo-foo, new stuff.
Yeah.
So he was doing like the grass juicing and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, he was a big proponent of greens, and you can either grow your own or buy your own, but they make it in powder form. Well, I did a lot of research, and I picked a brand called Delicious Greens 8000. It's not one of the most expensive brands, but it's one of the best bang for your bucks. And I've been on a
That's great.
day.
That's great. That's enough. You said enough. Everybody gets it. They understand. Let's just leave it at that. And people want to find out. Right, people want to find out more about it. I'm sure that they can do a search. So
Delicious Greens.
I'm just going to jump in and wrap up the podcast at this point before Nick says anything else. Thanks to everybody as always for listening to the Rockstar Principles podcast, and we'll be hitting you up real soon with another episode. Stay tuned.
And now a word from our fake sponsors. But we'd really love if they were our real sponsors. Seriously, we would love it.
Delicious Greens 8000 was incorporated to supplement people's diets. The idea really is not to substitute the consumption of fruits and vegetables, because we encourage people to eat plenty of fruits and vegetables. But the truth is that the average American doesn't. So Delicious Greens was introduced in the market so those people who don't have time to eat enough of those very good fruits and vegetables can incorporate the nutrition in the diet. And actually, Delicious Greens 8000 is great for children as well as for adults.
Rockstar Principles have returned. We are rocking the airwaves, the internet waves, the interwebs, whatever webs.
Every wave possible.
Gamma
surfing.
Waves.
We're on surfboards. We're rocking those waves. Gamma waves, right? Waves. Like the Hulk.
Yep.
Isn't that what he was exposed to?
Yeah, gamma.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so
I'm sorry.
We got a great article review we're going to do from a website we haven't used yet, so we're going to give them some major props today. John is going to tell us all about the 10 reasons to be okay with being disliked from author Lydia Deschene from @TinyBuddha. Rock it.
Waves at the baseball game, like you do the wave.
Yeah, do the
wave. Okay, I'm stuck on waves. I'm trying to think of other ways. Yeah, this is a cool little site. tinybuddha.com is where I found this. And the title of the article is 10 Reasons to be Okay with Being Disliked. Take that in for a minute. Let me break some news to you, folks. There's at least one person out there that does not like you. It's true.
What, really?
Yeah. There's at least one.
Shit.
Okay? Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe, but it's true. And when you get yourself into a position of leadership, which I'm sure many, if not all of you are, you're going to have people that don't like you. And this is one of the more difficult things I know for a lot of people to come to grips with. But here's 10 reasons that Lydia Deschene gives us to be okay with being disliked. I know I've mentioned it before. One of my mantras is the Colin Powell quote, trying to please everybody is a sign of mediocrity.
Yep. That
you're, kind of playing to the middle when you do that, and go back to what the great Todd Whitaker says, what do your best people think? This is all kind of in that same vein, I think. But as I said, she talks about a lot of different things here, and I'm not gonna, well, I guess I can quick hit all 10 of them. But the bottom line is, she says, I'm not suggesting we should be rude, inconsiderate, disrespectful. We're not disregarding other people's feelings, but that we have to be comfortable with the fact that there's going to be people that dislike us. So here's the 10, and then maybe Nick, we can talk about any of them that prove to be more salient for us. Number 1, it allows you to be true to yourself. Number 2, it gives you the power to say no. Number 3, you're more comfortable exploring your feelings. Number 4, your candor can help other people. Interesting one. Number 5, you can freely express your thoughts. 6, it prepares you for greater success. 7, it teaches you to offer kindness and compassion without expectations. I love that one. Number 8, you can inspire other people. Number 9, you can use your time wisely. And number 10, you can choose to smile anyway, because it just doesn't matter, to quote Bill Murray in Stripes. So what do you think?
I think there's a lot of giant leadership points that play into all of this. There's no way we're going to cover all of them.
Right.
But let's just start real quick with the fact you brought up in the beginning, the cold hard fact. Not everyone likes you.
Uh-huh.
A president of the United States considers himself over the moon popular and excited if he has 52% of polls and popularity.
Right.
52%. That's half the people.
Yeah.
That's 52 out of every 100 people. So start right there, folks. And we've talked about this on the podcast before. And guess what? It's going to be a Karate Kid. Colin Powell, Whitaker, and Karate Kid. Mr. Miyagi says to Danielson when they start karate training, walk on left side of the road, safe. Walk on right side of the road, safe. Walk in middle, sooner or later you get squished just like the grape. If you're going to take a stand, if you're going to believe in something, if you're not going to try to please everyone, you're going to piss people off.
Mm-hmm.
There's people who are not going to like your decision. Sometimes, most times, I would hope it's going to be people who, you would want to not agree with you because they're not the type of people who you agree with.
Right.
But other times, you're going to have fundamental differences with good people too. However, if you believe you're doing the right thing, what's best for business, for yourself, for your family, for the kids, those are decisions you have to be willing to make. And I think Colin Powell nails it with the mediocrity part. The concern for some leaders becomes trying to make everyone happy, and the reason they're doing that is because they want people to like them.
Right.
Why do you want to make everyone happy? Because you have this selfless nature? No, everyone to some degree is selfish. They want to be liked. It's an innate thing. It's part of being human. It's part of the prefrontal cortex. It's part of it. However, if our main focus, if our thrust, if our passion, if what we're doing is keyed in on the bottom line, whatever that bottom line is in schools, 9 times out of 10, it's helping kids, it's making your organization better, then you don't care about pissing people off, because that's part of what happens. It goes along with it.
And it's funny you say that, because the one that I said kind of jumped out at me, number 7, it teaches you to offer kindness and compassion without expectations. She goes on to explain that it's not difficult to offer compassion to someone who treats you with respect and kindness. What's more valuable for your personal development and to humanity as a whole is the ability to do what's right because it's right, not because you expect something in return.
Yes.
So it's about doing what's right because it's the right thing to do, not because you're doing it because this means my people will like me more.
Exactly.
It's all about in a position of true servant leadership, true transformational leadership, any kind of title of leadership you want to talk about. It's about doing what's right because it's what's best for the kids. And that's the thing I always come back to whenever we're having some kind of debate as a staff, some kind of discussion as a group. That question comes out all the time. What's best for the kids? What's best for the kids? And in this scenario, the best way to find out what's best for the kids is to make decisions. The best way to get what's best for the kids is to make decisions with that in mind, and not making decisions about, this will make people happier or more comfortable or whatever. It's about doing what's right for the kids. So,
and I like along with the doing what's right, one of my favorite quotes was always, doing what's right isn't always easy, but it's always right.
Right.
And that's not to say, we're impeccable, we never make mistakes, but at least it's something to aspire to or to strive to.
Yeah. Yeah, this is good stuff, and I think it's something important for new leaders especially. This was probably the most difficult lesson I had to learn when I was a new leader, as an assistant principal in particular. That I always felt like when I became an assistant principal, everybody was going to like me because I was one of them. I had been a teacher, and that's just not the case. And even if it does happen, it happens by default, really. I mean, it's more about making the decisions about what's best for the kids and what's best for your school than about what makes everybody happy. If the people are on the same page, if you've got good people, if you've done a good job of hiring, then everybody will be happy when you make decisions based on what's right for kids, because that's why they're there. They want what's best and what's right for kids. So hopefully that happens for you one way or the other, but hopefully that's not your guiding force in why you do things.
Let's also drop, some 411 for the new leaders too, because that you just gave them that's the giant 35,000 foot overview. You know what I mean? Of why they should be that way.
Right.
And this is going to be harsh, but let's be honest and put some of the ugly warts out there as well. One of my favorite people in the world, a lifelong great guy, great teacher, great assistant principal, who's actually going to be coming in and finishing the year with over at Downingtown Middle School soon, Frank Dardine, had a great quote he shared with me, and it was, "You're only as good as your last decision." So let's put it out there. You, new administrator, okay, whatever your role is, you spend all of this time and emotional capital on making a decision that's going to please everyone.
Right.
And you go out of your way to make them happy, okay?
Right.
And you do that, right? Then the next day, you have to make another decision about disciplining a kid. You piss off half the people who you spent all that time trying to make happy, and guess what? They don't remember you making them happy the day before.
Yeah.
You're only as good as your last decision.
That's true.
I mean,
absolutely true. The wisdom of Frank Dardine cannot be understated.
Frank, Big Cat. That's his nickname. Big Cat.
There's plenty of great lessons like that. I think that we can glean from people who have been there, and I try not to be too pushy with advice like that. When we're working with younger, newer administrators. But I can think of, we could do a whole nother segment, a whole nother bunch of segments on lessons like that you glean from people that you work with. But that's certainly a huge one, and one to keep in mind. It all comes back to, and here you go. Here's the quote that it kind of talks about that she uses in the article here. If your number one goal is to make sure that everyone likes and approves of you, then you risk sacrificing your uniqueness, and therefore your excellence. That's awesome. That sums it up. I should have just read that to begin with, and we could have saved us. Of course, then we wouldn't have a podcast to talk about if I did all that.
The other part, what that really kind of drives home too? If your number one goal is to make sure everyone likes you, that means your number one goal is all about you. It has nothing to do with your organization.
Wow!
Blew it up! We could do a whole nother segment on that, but you know what we should do instead?
What?
People should go to our new website, rockstarprinciples.com,
and
click on the services page.
Right.
Look at our services we offer. Bring us in.
There you go.
And we'll work directly with your new people.
He's kind of subtly working that plug in there.
Yeah,
huh?
man.
We're branching out, ladies and gentlemen. So, be sure and check out that rockstarprinciples.com, all right?
Hire us. Pay us money.
All right. With that, we'll take a little break. We'll be right back with more of the Rockstar Principles podcast.
Welcome to our new commercial called Promote a Podcast. We're going to pick a podcast every week that we listen to and follow and love and enjoy and give it a shout out. And our first one couldn't be a better choice. It's one of my favorite podcasts of the week. I always look forward to the newest episode. And here we go. We're going to launch right into it. It is called the NPR TED Radio Hour, hosted by Guy Raz. You can follow Guy on Twitter at NPR Guy Raz, Guyraz. So that's at NPR Guyraz. And folks, here's what they do. They take a relevant a TED Talk that is current, it's contemporary, it's a good one. They take a good TED Talk that took place. Then they create an entire podcast episode around that TED Talk where they interview the actual person who gave the TED Talk. They intersperse clips from the TED Talk, from the interview. They add in interviews from other experts in the field. They do anecdotal stories that tie in, and it's all very high production value. It's fast moving. It's energetic. It just takes the TED Talk and takes it to the next level. So it's almost like, hey, if you've got a great TED Talk that you really loved and they would cover it on this particular TED Radio Hour show, it's like you're getting a behind-the-scenes look into the entire experience there. So, number one, I love TED Talks, so this was a perfect fit, no question. John, what do you think?
TED Talks are awesome. I think they're pretty well known by now. I think people are pretty familiar with them. And if this is just another means for you to, stay connected with them, I say, more power to it after you're done listening to the Rockstar Principles podcast, of course. If you want to check theirs out, I don't think you can go wrong. So
Yeah,
that's my thought.
I love it. And one of their most recent episodes was all about happiness. A happiness TED Talk took place. It was super good. That's it, man. Guy Raz at NPR Guy Raz. The podcast is called the NPR TED Radio Hour. So go on iTunes into your podcast app. Just type that in and follow it. Or you can go to their website and you can follow it from there.
Check it out.
Rockstar Principles are excited to welcome you back to another edition of the Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, the University of Maxwell. Good stuff, right, John?
Absolutely. Yeah. It seems like it's been a long time since we did this.
It has been.
Much too long.
We've been busy with some other endeavors and whatnot, but
maybe we'll mention them at some point in this episode.
But we're back for we're gonna edu rock today. I mean,
edu rock.
We got some people saying, we miss the regular format.
I know,
so
I like that. Well, I like to hear that people are missing our regular routine. That's good.
So number 6 for the laws of leadership is called the law of solid ground, and in short, it means you can't repeatedly break trust with your follower base, with your employers, because that will rock the solid ground. Talks about having to admit mistakes when you make them. And the overall theme is, quote, character communicates. And your character, your inner character, I guess even your outer character that you present, is what message is sent to your constituency. So, John, what do you think?
Well, I think it's in terms of the other Maxwell University of Leadership 21 laws. I mean, I think this is definitely one that people should be able to identify with and understand. Really shouldn't be too earth-shattering for anybody, but it's about being real. I think it's recognizing that you're human, and hoping that your people recognize you're human, and being able to readily admit when mistakes are made. I think that takes a lot to stand up in front of a group of 50, 60, 100 staff members and say, look, I messed this thing up. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it. I think that's the key point, really. Is, when you're in that position, when you're in, and it's going to happen, inevitably it's going to happen, is that you admit that you messed up, admit that you had a part, and a lot of times, even if you didn't, a lot of times if it was, something that you gave an assistant principal to do, if you have assistant principals, or, something you delegated to someone else, or something that maybe was out of your control that came down from central office. You don't want to be throwing them under the bus. So sometimes you got to take a bullet. And the important part of all that, I think, is having a plan for what you're going to do to fix it. Here's what's messed up. I have a part in messing it up. But more importantly, you spend like 30 seconds on that, but you spend like 5 times as long on what we're going to do to make it better, what we're going to do to fix it, make sure people understand that everything's going to be okay, rather than have people worry about, the stability of your leadership.
I think along with that, too, is depending on the situation. I think most situations we encounter in the principalship, when we screw it up, it's not usually that hard to fix. You know what I mean? Like, we don't usually come upon insurmountable, life-threatening or the world has ended type things. Right. However, I think sometimes along with that plan where we outline how we're going to fix it, sometimes we give our people also a throw-in and say, okay, here's how we want to fix it. But if you guys have any ideas that you think might be better than that, we're open to at least listening to that. And, give them a voice. If it's the type of thing they need a voice in. Sometimes, like you said, it's something passed down from central administration, and it just needed to be tweaked or put in action a little bit differently, maybe. Like stuff that's usually pretty simple to to fix there. The other piece there, and we've talked about this before, but I think it's worth mentioning again for listeners who maybe missed it. When we talked about sometimes you can diffuse entire situations by starting off by saying, hey, look, I make mistakes every day. I'm sorry up front. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. So, let's go. Yeah. And then right away, if they were angry, if they were upset, sometimes you can diffuse a lot of that.
Right. No, yeah, that's a good way to go. And I think it also sets a good precedent in terms of being a model for them in front of the kids. I really love teachers who are very comfortable with standing in front of their kids and saying to their kids, I messed this up, and here's what I'm going to do to fix it. If you set the tone as somebody who's going to do that, then when the teacher situations occur, for you to expect teachers to do the same thing is very easy. You can say to them, this is what I expect for myself, and I expect you to do the same thing. Whereas if you're not someone who does that, and you have a teacher who messes something up, and they're not willing to own it, and you want them to own it, their answer is going to be, well, you don't own things when you mess it up. What kind of model are you setting for me? So even if you need that as a reason, I think that really goes a long way as well in helping them.
So let me ask you a question. Flip the script just a little bit.
Always worries me when you start a sentence with that.
Had a situation this past week where a student and a parent sent an email like they normally do. They don't go to the teacher first. They come right to us.
Of course not.
And accuse the teacher of, let's just say, a minor violation of a FERPA law. We'll say that.
Ew.
Okay.
Is there such a thing as a minor violation of a FERPA law?
Well, yeah. I mean, you could. This is one where if it got in front of a court, the court would probably laugh it out. However, it was something the teacher shouldn't have done. My immediate response, of course, I say I'll follow this up. Although I do encourage you to talk to the teacher, but since it was a FERPA issue, I said I would also handle it.
Right.
So I in order to try to get honesty, and I also knew the teacher probably did do this. I sent an email to the teacher and said, I know you would never do this, but this parent is saying you did this. Yeah. So the reply back from the teacher was, I did do this. I'm sorry for doing that. And then a 3-page monologue on how evil the kid is and how the kid deserved it.
Right.
So my question for you would be, okay, so how do I follow that up now? The teacher, gave me the short, yeah, I did do it. Said they would apologize to the parent, and then went on for 3 pages about the evil nature of this child. So do you address it at all? Tell me what John Ross does.
Well, I would say in that scenario, I would try to keep the two things separate as possible. I would, let's focus on the violation that took place. Let's focus on, what you did and how we're going to make that better. And I'm glad you're accepting responsibility for that and that you're going to clear the air with the parent. Let's do that. And then I'd be kind of curious as to why this is just now coming to my attention that this kid is, the most evil child you've ever experienced in your life or whatever. I mean, for somebody to take all that time to go on and on about how bad a kid is. And I would also make the point clear that just because that kid did all that doesn't mean they deserve, whatever, not knowing what you're talking about. But I mean, we have to, I know I've said this 100 times to you, people take things personally.
Yep.
And people get personally invested in this stuff. And when something like that happens, they're not able to treat it as just business. And kids, more than anybody, are business. They say things and we take it personally because we think it's a personal attack on us, when in reality that's just their knee-jerk reaction to something, is to say things like that, and they really don't take it personally, or they don't mean it personally. So I would talk about that secondary issue, but I would still try to keep most of the focus on the violation that took place.
So here we go. There's your advice, fellow rock stars, newer rock stars dealing with these types of things. The answer is keep them separate. Punch the teacher in the face.
I don't think I said that.
No.
Did I?
No. Maybe I envisioned.
Subliminally?
Maybe I envisioned that.
The fact that I was sitting here pounding my hand into my fist.
And therein lies the law of don't take things personally. And we've talked about that a million times. And I don't know that you can ever stress that enough. All right. Well, I think we've gotten a good read on Maxwell number 6.
That's it for number 6 from the Maxwell University of Leadership. And we're going to take a little break? Or are we going to go right into the next one?
We take a little break.
Okay.
That way we can get more commercials in.
There you go. All right. So we'll be right back with more of the Rockstar Principles Podcast.
Thanks for helping RSP top the charts in the Edu podcast world. Keep it real with Twisted Steel and School Appeal.